Hey guys, what time is it?
I don't know.
It's 5 o'clock.
That's what we're talking about today.
Welcome to the Utah Real Estate Show podcast, the show where two agents and a lender teach real estate best practices by talking through mistakes we've seen and made.
So the day always ends at 5 o'clock unless otherwise specified.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. That means that if you happen to just kick out a date, March 21st, or whatever the case is, the meaning is March 21st at 5 o'clock p.m.
Before 5.
It has to happen. So if that's the deadline, if that is your due diligence deadline, for example, then your due diligence ends at 5 o'clock on that day. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Utah Real Estate Show. I am Tyler Kazare, Utah Real Estate Agent.
Jason Christiansen, mortgage lender.
Eric Wist, Utah Real Estate Agent.
And today, as we cued in the open, we are talking about the time of day. And you may think to yourself, this is menial. Why do we even talk about what time it is?
Because the day ends at 5.
It is because time is of the essence. This is a phrase that everyone has heard in the real estate community. Time is of the essence.
Well, it's kind of like a cool thing.
Well, you hear it in
movies.
like all sorts of contracts and all sorts of different things. What does that even mean, time is of the essence?
Time is the very essence of this contract. Without timelines, it does not matter what's going on in this contract.
Okay.
Well, I would say more accurately, time is an important factor.
Would you say it's essential?
I would say
as in
it's
having
essential.
to do with the
As we
essence?
can see, time has affected these two a lot more.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, time has affected me a lot more. I wear my stripe
I don't have
proudly.
much gray in my hair.
No.
I don't have much hair on my gray.
Well, okay, so one of the other elements that it talks about in that provision in Section 21 of the Utah Real Estate Purchase Contract, it talks about the day ends at 5 o'clock Mountain Time. Why
Mountain
on
Standard or Mountain
earth
Daylight?
would we specify?
Just mountain.
It is just Mountain Time.
It's just Mountain Time because whether it's Mountain or Daylight
Right.
savings.
Either
is the
one.
same.
Whatever time it is in Utah is the time it is in Utah.
Exactly. So the day always ends at 5 o'clock unless otherwise specified.
Correct.
That means that if you happen to just kick out a date, March 21st, or whatever the case is, the meaning is March 21st at 5 o'clock p.m.
Before 5.
It has to happen. So if that's the deadline, if that is your due diligence deadline, for example, then your due diligence ends at 5 o'clock on that day.
What happens if you in the contract where it asks you to put they have so many days to respond, okay? And you just put the date of March 10th and you forget to put a time in the contract?
I would say it defaults
Does
to
it
5.
default to 5?
Yes, it defaults to 5 o'clock.
Because you can bother, but here's the real reason why. So like, you need to know if financing is working, right? And you're going through not a super duper cool mortgage lender who answers their phone. Like banks close at 5. You're not getting a response. End of business in general is 5 o'clock. Right? So it makes sense. Like, sure, you can chat and go over to your neighbors and have a barbecue until whatever and still have it, 11:59, it's still Tuesday. But
for all intents and
business.
purposes, we're saying at 5 o'clock, that's when it cuts.
It's done.
Okay, and this actually brings up another important issue, and people don't like to think about this very much, but we often specify like a number of days in the contract. Like, for example, earnest money needs to be deposited, everyone knows, right, in 4 days. Well, we have to know when that count starts. And the way to remember this is today is always day 0, always.
So the contract was written on the 1st for ease of use. So then you have, it's off, right? So like your 4 days is day 5.
Correct.
Is the 5th day?
Yeah. So today is always day 0. So if you've got 4 days, tomorrow would be your first day.
Which is the 2nd.
3rd, 4th, 5th.
Right.
And by what time on that day?
5
o'clock, people. 5 o'clock on that day. Now, there is a way to amend that.
With an amendment.
With an addendum, right?
Or an amendment.
So you can addend that.
You can addend that?
If for some reason it is a requirement for your contract or your situation that due diligence has to go until 11 o'clock p.m., you can state that it needs to go to 11 o'clock p.m. And those now prevail the terms of the contract for that specific deadline.
Right.
And so I guess you could override it for everything. Like always the
5:05.
deadline is 11 o'clock. That would be weird, but If you needed to on a specific case, you could.
Well, and the other reason some people are like, well, why does it say Mountain Time? Well, I've had several clients not in Utah.
Yes.
5 o'clock
time
somewhere.
zones. And it gets confusing. I mean, we're dealing with a client right now. I mean, we're the client. Our agent is in Illinois.
Yeah.
And so we're dealing with stuff with time differences. And now we're on the buying side of stuff. So you have to remember, and if that means setting an alarm or whatever it is, it makes a big difference because their agents are always on their client side. We have a little quick story. Okay. We always have.
We go through these stories so you don't have to. That's why we do this. Okay,
so we were under contract representing the seller. Okay, we had a buyer that we were negotiating a contract. We were under contract. I think we were still negotiating it actually.
No, we were under contract. Okay, we made it under contract.
Yeah, so we had an addendum that was going back and forth about something, and in that addendum it was they had to respond by this time or it was the contract was dead by 5 p.m.
This addendum serves as cancellation.
Yeah, during this time we ended up acquiring a backup offer that was actually a really good backup offer, and we wanted to do that, but because of earnest money we couldn't go boot the buyer, which we didn't really have any reason to besides just dollars. Because then we would have had to forfeit that earnest money back to the buyer because it would have been a seller default. There's plenty of videos you can go watch about those. So we waited and we had an addendum out on something, and this particular buyer, they were notoriously slow at responding to phone calls, text messages, emails. Mm-hmm. So we had a feeling that they were going to also be slow on their acceptances. Well, we had at 501, they had not accepted that counter, and so they were booted.
Yep.
We acted in the side of our seller. We had got out of the contract to the buyer, and then we accepted that new backup offer, and we were back under contract right away on a better offer. So all of a sudden, the buyer is extremely mad, which I can understand, but they didn't understand what section 21 of the contract was. Right. Time is of the essence.
It's essential.
We are not the agents for the buyer. We were the agents for the seller. They are our contract. We're not here to remind the buyer of their time when we had that wouldn't have benefited our seller.
Right. So it's also important to realize that this applies to the people in the contract.
Oh, yes.
This will not bind the lender or the appraiser or the title company.
The inspector or anyone else. If you're not party to this contract, those deadlines don't. The 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock doesn't apply to you.
Doesn't apply to you. So.
Mm-hmm. It's a simple one, but kind of scary because I think a lot of people take it for granted.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the cancellation of the same. You know, like I call in, hey, we need to cancel this contract, and it needs to be in writing and presented. So so it plays a part. 5 o'clock is a big time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you'll always find that people around 4 o'clock, I think every agent, if they have a deal active right now, like around 4 o'clock, they just start shaking. They're just like, what's going on? Like, do I need to respond by 5 o'clock? Do I need to contact someone? Do I need to get a response? Do I need to accept? And it is because every agent has it drilled into them 5 o'clock.
Well, because stuff happens. And it comes down to that last minute on things.
Yeah. So what did we learn today?
My key takeaway is you need to be very aware of what time it is. And if it's 5 o'clock, you may have missed your opportunity to proceed in a contract.
It's important to know that as a lender, I don't care so much.
Remember to always review your contracts and understand which dates and times are at 5 o'clock or other times.
I do care, but just watch your contract.
All right, guys, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I don't have my watch, but we want to give you a watch. So here's how you get your watch. Do a 5-star review of our podcast, take a photograph of it and post it on social media.
Tag us
in there, and we're going to do a drawing.
Next week.
We're going to give away a watch.
If you want to get in touch with us, shoot us a text at 801-228-7687. Make sure you mention the show. You can email us at theutahrealestateshow@gmail.com. You can watch this show on YouTube, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If If you learned something, or if you really love this show, give us a like on YouTube and drop a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. The Utah Real Estate Show is a production of Hive Collective at Presidio Real Estate with support from Security Home Mortgage. The NMLS number for Security Home Mortgage is 178787. The NMLS number for Jason Christiansen is 240472, Equal Housing Lender. Not only is this not legal or investment advice, but you should definitely talk to a pro before you make any real estate decision. Every situation is different and should be considered in context. Copyright Jason Christiansen, Aric Wist, and Tyler Kazare. All rights reserved. Talk to you next week.
What time is it?
It's time for another episode of...
No. You should ask me.
Hey, Tyler.
No, who? Wait.
What? Who?
Hey.
Let's go.
I really appreciated that. What have you done?
Not even here.
How did this even happen? No, leave it off.
I know. Yeah, don't move.
Wait,
Don't anybody move.
I think it's funny that you always say it's important to remember.
What am I supposed to say?
It's important that.
It's important that.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, he just took mine and his, so I'll just do whatever I want.
I would take yours too, but...
Who's saying this?
You are, not me. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Share this with your friends. Have Tyler do the out.
Okie dokie.
Hang loose.
Unable to hold still, that's what that is.
Pretty much.